So as a law enforcement officer, because I know, like, normally I start from the beginning, like childhood, but I want to just kind of put a hold on that real quick because um, just based off of the climate that we're in right now, like I said, the last few years, and not even, I'm including um, current events, like we talk about the Nolan Wells case and the Carmelo Anthony's, and people still talk about George Floyd, and and just the climate that we're in, and just the overall interactions, the relationships between the community and law enforcement. So I want to kind of dive into that real quick. Jay, is that okay with you?
Sure.
Yeah, so I want to. Okay, so let me just kind of frame it a little bit more, because I know I put a lot out there, right? So it's just because there's so much I want to kind of pick your brain about, and I just want to get your honest perspective. I don't want no PC version here, no political correctness, okay? Because I know there's going to be some perspective that I'm going to share that may not sit well with anybody. It's going to be an unpopular opinion at times, so I just want to kind of add that disclaimer as well. But I just want to make sure that how important it is for you, in your position, to have an honest perspective about this, right? So I want to dive a little deeper, like I said before, into how, different perspective of how we need to, um, how the relationship between the community, civilians, between us and law enforcement. How do you feel that we need to make it more effective? Let's start there.
I think to make it more effective, let me say this. I'm Washington D.C. is considered the South, but it's close to the North, right? Georgia is more southern, and when I look at policing compared to D.C. and Georgia, I could see some differences. Okay, for instance, in D.C., we're really governed. We're really governed. All your actions are accounted for, with BWCs. Police officers in DC have been convicted of crimes. And when I look at
Mm.
Eastern in the South, I see them getting away with stuff that we wouldn't be able to get away in Washington, DC. So I think the region has a lot to do with it too.
And what's the reason?
I can't say the reason. I'm in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is a political town. So
Mm.
stuff will make the news here. It's going to be addressed. And let me say this about DC. If you make a complaint on a police officer in DC, it's going to be investigated and investigated seriously. Now, I can't speak for down south because I'm not a police officer down south. I'm just going by what I see on the news. I see a lot of things that I see take place down there that wouldn't fly up here.
Yeah. So, in your perspective, Jay,
Mhm.
kind of based it off what you just said, how do you feel like, or based on your experience in the jurisdiction that you've been on, during your career, how can we be more effective? You know, how do
Well,
you think?
I think the best thing that happened with law enforcement is camera phones, BWC, documentation. And whenever you come across a police officer, and I'm saying in the South, because in DC, I don't really know about Atlanta. I don't know if you have BWCs in Atlanta, but document all your actions. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, so yeah, okay, and also, body cam footage and stuff like that. But sometimes, even with documenting, sometimes the narrative is always shifting,
Right.
and it's hard to, you know, because my perspective, I always try to get a perspective based on the overall outcome, because there's going to be a lot of content, commentary, there's a lot of investigations going on, and
Mhm.
always there's always going to be some pieces that need to be filled. There's always certain things not adding up, and there's
Mhm.
always more context needed, and it's always going to be their word against their word, and it's always going to be those type of conflicting issues, right? So that's why it's a struggle for me. When I, because me honestly, honestly, Jay, I don't look at news. I'm not a fan of the news. I try to keep myself aware. Don't get me wrong, because I know what's out there, but I'm just not. I've never been a fan of the news. I never went out my way to watch it, because it's just when I try to avoid engaging too much, because I know that is going to come across as if um I'm picking the wrong side, so to speak, and I'm really not, So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you heard the story about, it was this I don't know, I think she was a foster girl, and I believe she was like 15 or 16 years old, and she got into a tussle with her aunt or something like that, and she went inside to call the police. Okay, after everything was said and done, I think there was some camera footage from across the street, and now instead of her staying inside, she still provoked, or she still went back outside and started fighting with someone, and so she came out with a knife,
Mm-hmm.
and she was about to stab this person had the cop not shot her in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I know, like I said, again, this is one of those unpopular opinions. I feel like there's certain times when the shooting is justified, because I know a lot of people might say, why did the cop have to shoot her there, or why couldn't he shoot her in the leg, or why, it depends on the positioning, it depends on the angle, it depends on what the lead up was, because it was either her or the other person that he was trying to that she was that he that the cop was trying to keep from stabbing.
I
You
remember.
know,
Yes.
okay, you get where I'm going with this.
Yes.
Okay, so if you look at the video, I wish I had it. You see the knife, and you see that cop had to take certain measures,
Mm-hmm.
and so the target what you had to be, and of course, last thing I don't want nobody getting killed. I don't want anyone to have to face their feet that way. They're inevitable that way. But at that moment, it was justified, in that sense, because of how things panned out. So based on that detail, that's why I was saying that I know there's certain things are not going to be politically correct here,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's why I feel like when we talk about law enforcement and civilian, it's not always about police brutality. It's not always about you know you can't it's not always about excessive force, because you got to look at how you have to look at the lead up. You have to look at um, actions actions warranted the outcome. So I just want to get your perspective on based on that scenario alone.
Okay. I remember seeing that, and I just want to. It was going to be I knew it was going to be a justified shooting because the young lady did have a knife. She was. I can't remember how far she was, but I remember the distance being close where
It was
she
close.
proximity of the person. And the officer did shoot the lady in the back, which was you can do based on what is occurring at the time. Now, we'll say, why didn't the officer shoot the lady in the leg? Okay, let me say this: we're not trained to shoot people in the leg. We're trained to shoot center mass because that is the biggest target on the body. And
Hmm.
everybody can shoot. And we understand that. So you can go and try to shoot somebody in their leg, and what is the chance of actually hitting their leg? And what is your chances of actually hitting center mass? So,
Right.
right. And let me say this. When I look at police shooting, really look at it in an objective way. I think sometimes based on race, We create
Mm.
to judge without knowing all the facts, right? Me being a police officer, I understand that. So it doesn't make me upset because certain things come with this job. And I understand it's going to be some judgment before the evidence actually comes out,
Yes.
right? So what I choose to do myself, I can't govern what's not around me. I can't govern other police officers that are not in my area, but I can govern myself.
Yes.
I can govern who's around me. And this is another thing I'm gonna say. I think people when they look at me in my uniform, they look at me as a police officer. I look at myself as a black police officer. You know, I love my people. I'm pro-black. I'm just a police officer. But what I am going to do, I am going to be objective on what I see.
Yes.
Be based on race. It's going to be based on facts. And a lot of times in our community, we prejudge before knowing all the facts. And even if it's a justified shooting, we know it in our heart. And I'm not saying all shootings are justified because I see a lot of unjustified shootings.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Shooting is justified. We know it in our heart. We still going to say that was a bad shooting.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, Jay, let me ask you this. As a black police officer,
Mhm.
I want to know because I know I can imagine the amount of pressure that you have from your boys in blue
Mm-hmm.
and the people in black out there. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you know what I'm saying. You see what I'm saying? Like, the black, brothers and sisters out there, not only in the community but your family or whoever. And I can imagine sometimes you be in the middle of knowing that you have your job to do, right? But
Mm-hmm.
you're still a man at the end of the day. You're still human, but you still have a job to do because when it comes to law enforcement, most of us understand that we don't. Most of the cops, we don't. You don't come into the job with the intent of killing anyone or I'm sorry, or offing anybody. I got to be careful what I say on here. You don't have your overall agenda is not to harm anyone. It's safety is the primary focus. You know, you're risking your life. And thank you for your service, by the way. I just want to make sure I say that. You know, but I just want to know what kind of pressure do you have? You know, knowing that you have to maintain some level of loyalty to your fellow officers and fellow constituents within your career, as well as your loyalty to the people, as far as the members of your community.
Well, me, I'm gonna be fair, I'm gonna be straight across the board, and I don't agree with your statement because I think some officers do come on the department with the objective to harm people. And I'm
Mm,
the ice shooting in Minnesota
mm,
when the ladies were shot in the head, or when the guy was on the ground and also walked up.
yeah, I said most. I said not all. Yeah.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right,
Mm-hmm.
right. So I can't say officers don't.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I can say I don't. My when I came to work, I prayed every day before I went out on patrol, and I prayed that I didn't have to actually shoot someone. You right? But let me say this about police also. We are not a monolith. We are
Right. Mm-hmm.
we are not all not one thing. Now, just because I come in and I say my prayers, hope I don't have to, you know, shoot anyone. You got some officers, and I know for a fact are gun ho.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are different. But even though we get grouped all together, and I understand why, we are all different.
Yeah.
And
And
I
I'm sorry.
can't, in good faith, say all law enforcement comes to work without the intention of harming someone.
No, not all. Mm,
Right. I'm just
yeah. And so when you see that, because you like I said again, it's that pressure. Going back to that pressure part. I know you mentioned, yeah, you have to be made neutral. But what about? As I know you have had this, during your time, you know, where you had to have that pressure to um, have to be a certain type of way when to appease certain people in the community, like I said before, like outside of the loyalty to your comrades. What type of pressure do you have to have when it comes to loyalty to your community? Because talking about when talking about especially mainly the Black community. That's what I want to
Let
say.
me say this: I'm governed by morals and principles.
Okay.
So my morals and principles are set in stone. So I'm going to always do the right thing.
Okay.
It's me, and I'm not going to allow you to do the wrong thing in my presence. So when you say pressure, I don't have any pressure when it comes to that because I'm guided by my morals and principles and doing the right thing.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that. 'Cause